So about a week ago, I became aware of this gentleman, Hoon Kim, or in Korean, Kim Hoon. He has identified himself as the world's highest IQ record holder, claiming an IQ of 276. He also got a lot of attention because he identified himself as a Christian. That's something I'm going to get to in a moment. But one thing that's interesting about him, from what I can understand, he's just kind of burst onto the international scene in the last year or two. And in particular, you can see that he joined Twitter X in November of 2024. So just about 7 months ago, and he's already amassed close to 200,000 followers. So he's gotten a lot of notoriety and significance, attention, we should say. Well, this is one of the few tweets that have gotten particular attention for him. He says, as the world's highest IQ record holder, I believe the Bible is the perfect, eternal, and final word of God. Therefore, the Bible doesn't need to be updated. The world needs to catch up. Now, that was got a lot of people's attention just a week ago or so. You can see here it has 6.3 million views because he identifies himself, and we'll see he does that repeatedly, as the world's highest IQ record holder. And then he goes on to endorse Christianity, which you might guess is music to the ears of many Christians. Here's another example. He said, as the world's highest IQ record holder, I believe that Jesus Christ is God, the way, the truth, and the life. This one, notably, you can see has over 20 million views at the time that that screenshot was taken. And here's another one. He says, as the world's highest IQ record holder, I analyzed every ideology and philosophy. I conclude that only Christianity provides a logically sound solution to the problem of evil, suffering, and salvation. Wow, that's pretty impressive if you've analyzed every ideology and philosophy known to humankind. But I guess if you have the world's highest IQ, that is within your capacity to do. Well, this, not surprisingly, has been lauded and praised by many Christian news organizations and information websites online. Here's one example from the Catholic Herald, declaring world's highest IQ record holder affirms Christian faith on X, voices support for Trump. Mm-hmm. Another example from Premier Christian News, Christ is my logic. Scientist with world's highest IQ declares Christian faith. And we have Relevant Magazine declaring brilliant move. The man with the highest IQ in the world opens up about being a Christian. Indeed, we can see on the website that this article has been for the last while the highest trending article on this website. We have the Gospel Herald declaring Kim world's highest IQ record holder, declares Christian faith, Jesus Christ is God. And last but not least, we even have Movie Guide declaring the smartest person in the world believes this about Jesus. So, notably, there have been a lot of Christians who have been more than eager to embrace not only Kim's claims to be a Christian, but to be the world's smartest man or smartest person. And that's, however, not a universally warm reception. Some people have been skeptical of Kim, and we're going to get to them in a moment. But what other thing that was notable to me is to see how many Christian apologists were willing to embrace Kim. And here's an example from Sean McDowell, who tagged Kim on an email and said, or on a Twitter tweet, and said, any chance you're up for an interview about your faith? I'm an apologetics professor and would love to engage the world's top IQ. And McDowell said, if others want this, please retweet or comment. What was interesting to me is that McDowell, who was supposed to model rational, critical, evidential engagement, just accepts Kim's claims on face value. And that's something I am happy to say that not everybody has been willing to do. Kim acknowledged that some people are skeptical of his claims, and he responded, I'm sorry, but I'm real. The world's highest IQ record holder, verified by official world record and the World Memory Championships, which partners with Guinness World Records. You can verify me anytime. Where? He says, on my official website. Well, rather than go to just Kim's official website, we're going to do a deep dive on the very question of how Kim's claims can or should be verified. But as I said, we're not going to just rely on Kim. In fact, I'm going to allow my friend Steve Boffman to do a lot of the heavy lifting here. Steve will be known to many of you as he's a lawyer, but he's also a very intrepid, independent, investigative journalist, I would say. Steve did some really key investigation some years ago into Ravi Zacharias, exposing this globally recognized and beloved evangelical apologist as indeed a huckster and a predator. And in the last few days, I reached out to Steve because he'd been talking with me about his concerns about Kim. I said, Steve, let's get together and have a conversation about this. So Steve's done some investigation, and we're going to be exploring that today. Steve, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Randall.
So, a bit of a background from your end. When did you first become aware of Young Hoon Kim, and what were some of your reactions to his claims initially?
About a week ago, I became aware of him, and it was interesting to me because I went through a bit of a crisis. He was so obviously a blowhard, an incorrigible braggart. Um, so I thought there's something not right with this guy's credentials. I'm going to check it out. And I went online and I just felt like I've become way too cynical in life because look how many professional Christian journalists and some secular journalists have found that he's telling the truth, and they're trumpeting his claims on their in their magazines and their on their websites. And I just thought, wow, Steve, this you should just let this one go. But it was very, very easy to find very concerning stuff about Mr. Kim's claim. And I think he's basically a fraud. He's either a knowing fraud or he has such a level of clinical narcissism where he's just deluded. So if you'd like, I can start in on what I found, but go ahead.
Okay, well, I just want to begin by saying I appreciate like the basic spidey sense, in essence, that you're demonstrating here is when someone repeatedly refers to themselves as the world's highest IQ record holder, dot dot dot. That would seem to be just itself a red flag for something being amiss here. You actually shared with me a quote from Stephen Hawking. Can you paraphrase that quote for us? 'Cause I thought that was very apropos.
Hawking was asked about his IQ, and he said to the effect that people who care about their IQs are losers. So that's
Yeah,
almost
so
an exact quote. But yeah,
yeah,
the other thing about his IQ is it should have been a red flag. Einstein had an IQ of about 160. Kim Jong Un is claiming to have 276, and right there, red flags.
right. From what I've been seeing online, people talk about IQ is like it's possible theoretically to have an IQ in the upper 180, 90, maybe low 200s, not 276. That's what I'm hearing. Is that
Yeah,
fair?
yeah.
Okay, let's go back to the slide where we ended off and take again. So Kim invokes several authorities, ostensibly, for his claim. So we're going to begin by taking a look at that. Okay, Steve, take it away.
Yeah, so Kim makes it very easy for us right here. Take a look at what he refers us to confirm his claims about his IQ. The first thing he does is he refers to an organization called the Official World Records. I'd never heard of them, but I encourage each of you to go to their website and you'll see terribly amateurish, badly written, incoherent at times English, where it looks like it's more of a certificate mill. They actually encourage businesses who want to have a world record to boost business to contact them for certificates. So this is the first thing that Kim Jong Un has referred to in
Okay,
support of his credentials.
I've just pulled up a couple screen grabs I made from the official world record website. As you said, I mean, here it's reaching out to businesses, saying that getting a world record from this organization, quote unquote, can be part of their advertising campaign and useful essentially for marketing. So when I saw that, and you kind of highlighted this for me, it reminded me of the old Who's Who money making schemes, where you would get an email in the old days, you'd get a phone call or a letter saying, "Well, you're so prestigious in your field, we'd like to invite you to be part of our Who's Who in this field. All you need to do is pay this nominal fee, and you'll be part of our official book or website. And I mean, I've always thought that those were, I don't know if I'll say scam, but at the very least, a kind of empty accolade and a money-making scheme where they're not really offering a credible service. Is that kind of how you see this website?
Yeah, I don't know anything about the organization, but it sure smells certificate mill, and it's certainly not something that we would trust to support the claim that Kim Jong Un is the world's shoe holder. It's just the
Okay.
sloppy website. So, and that's the
Okay.
one he refers us to first.
Do you want to talk more about this one, or do you want to go back to the other two? So he also referenced the World Memory Championships and Guinness World Records.
Yeah, let's go to World Memory Championships. That's the name of an organization founded by co-founded by a British chess master named Raymond Keane. And I went to the World Memory Championships website and noticed that Mr. Kim's name is not in any of the winner categories, even though he claims that they have endorsed his claim. So I contacted Mr. Keane, and Mr. Keane has previously supported Mr. Kim's integrity, but he told me in writing that he was not aware that Kim was using the organization World Memory Championships to support his IQ claim. And he
Okay,
told
is
me that
that
he
so?
next time.
I'm gonna skip down. Is that this quote right here then?
Right. This
Okay.
is from the founder of the World Memory Championships, co-founder of World Memory Championships, the second group that Mr. Kim wants us to go to see that he's been credited with the world IQ. And the founder here said it wasn't clear to me that he'd credited us with the IQ record. If he has, I will take him up on his offer. So what Mr. King's going to do is challenge to take a real IQ test. So we'll stay tuned for that. But it's clear that Mr. Kim was using champion endorsement of his IQ claim without them knowing it.
Okay, so we've heard first of all from official world record. Is this Kim's certificate?
No, I think that's just one of the certificates you can buy for your business if you need a world record holder. I'm thinking of pronouncing myself world's fastest banjo player and getting one of those for myself.
Like this one says the world's
So
highest
that's,
IQ person now,
oh, I'm
and
sorry.
so
You know, I'm not
it
able
lists
to read
Kim.
it. Yes, he got right. Okay,
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. I thought that was the same. Yeah, but yes. So
Okay,
that
and
he
and
has
then
that at
these
his
ones are the
website.
samples. Sorry, I just backed up to the samples you had as well. Okay.
Yeah, so it's astonishing that that's the thing he's using to prove his IQ status is a certificate that it looks like almost anybody can get from this certificate mill. And what's really astonishing is that no one has ever bothered to check this out. It's, just all you need is keyboard skills and internet access, and this stuff would is right there for you. So his first two claims just look like they're bogus. And then if we can move on to the Guinness claim, Mr. Kim tends to mention Guinness a lot. And the Guinness Book of World Records, it turns out, stopped doing IQ stuff in 1989 or 1990 because there was fraud problems with it, and it was also just too imprecise. So they just discontinued. So Mr. Kim's repeated references to affiliated with or participating with Guinness, it's a sleight of hand that is clearly misleading. So to summarize, the three things he names in his challenge to us to check his credentials are bogus, right?
Okay, so official world records, memory championships, and Guinness. And that
Correct.
last one is particularly damning, I would think. I mean, I think they all are, but reference when Guinness hasn't been involved in this for 35 years or something to name drop Guinness.
Yeah, and I mean, at this point, we should be expecting lots of those Christian publications you just shared articles of to be issuing retractions with egg on their face. And I don't think that's good enough. I think they should be called to explain why they ran this story to millions and millions of people without even taking so much as 2 minutes to fact check it. That is astonishingly irresponsible. And if my atheist community had publications behaving to those extraordinary low standards, I would make it a point to out every damn one of them. But in your tribe, Randall, with all due respect to you, I love your books. I have 3 or 4 of them. But there are very few people like you who are actively encouraging Christians to think clearly and be critical and not swallow every damn thing that makes you feel warm, fuzzy about Jesus, because that's what's going on here. And it's shocking to see it but the professional Christian journalists doing this too. Just blows me away.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna I will say that I think that the general idea of a confirmation bias is pretty universal, where we all kind of look for evidence to support our beliefs and screen out or downplay evidence that goes against our beliefs.
Yeah.
It is very disheartening to see how prevalent and common it remains among Christians. I mean, someone like Sean McDowell, he's clearly an intelligent person. He has an earned academic PhD. For him to just right away jump on the bus and want to interview Kim, accepting his claims at face value, rather than take some of this preliminary investigation that you did, and even just that spidey sense to think somebody who repeatedly identifies themselves as the world's highest IQ record holder, there's something amiss there in the way they're presenting themselves. I
Yeah.
wish that that kind of common sense, quote unquote, was more common.
Yeah.
All right.
I agree.
You had a couple other things I just wanted to come back to. So, a couple other slides about the Giga Society and that. So, can we just switch back to that then?
Sure. Randall, before we do that, you
Yeah,
just reminded me of one thing. You mentioned
yeah,
PhD. Sean McDowell has a PhD. Um, it is very difficult to know what exactly Kim Young Hoon's academic resume is. He doesn't have it anywhere. I The best I'm able
right.
to tell is we know he calls himself doctor everywhere. He only has honorary doctorates, which he claims were given to him in recognition of significant contributions to the field of cognitive science. And then he also claims that regarding his education background, Dr. Young Hoon Kim studied academic degrees in psychology, neuroscience, counseling, coaching, linguistics, sociology, philosophy, and non-denominational theology at King's College, London Institute of Psychiatry, University of London, Korea University, and Yonsei University, the #1 private university in Asia. But
Sorry, where is that all from? Where's that information from?
that's from his website. That Dr. Yunhoon Kim studied academic degrees in all these things. Now that's vague enough. I mean, I forgive him if his English just isn't precise, but this is about his academic credentials. He's claiming to be the smartest man in the world or the highest IQ. Show us your educational background at least, because you're making pronouncements on all sorts of subjects. Let us know. Do you have a doctorate? Now there are a lot of Yunhoon Kims on the internet, so it was hard to get to the bottom of this, but he's vague, which is exactly how Ravi Zacharias was about his education. And it seems to me like all he has is the bachelor's degree in theology. I could be wrong, but he should tell us.
From Yonsei University.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Which,
Yeah.
which as you noted in one of your podcasts recently, he calls the #1 private university in Asia, which is really kind of silly because there's a bunch of great universities in Asia, and you just don't make those kinds of claims
Well,
willy-nilly.
yeah. I mean, I did a quick look at top universities of Asia by various rankings, like Times Literary Supplement, etc. I saw Yonsei University listed in the top 10, I think, in some of them. And nowhere was it listed #1. And I don't know what private, like distinguishing as a private versus a public university, if he's trying to invoke some other kind of ranking there. But that language you use, that has studied a list of subjects longer than my arm, and yet he doesn't reference actually having academic degrees. What does that mean? That he audited a course? I mean, you mentioned about some echoes of Ravi Zacharias here. It's like it's so vague. It could just mean pretty much anything, right? That he audited a course or from. I mean, I went to, if he's referring to King's College, University of London, maybe he means Cambridge. I don't know, but I went to University of London, so I'd be interested to know if he's claiming to have earned a degree from there.
Yeah,
A lot of red flags, as you're pointing out.
absolutely.
Okay, so we can switch back then. So I'm going to we're at the screenshot for the United Sigma Intelligence Association.
Right. So
What is
this is
this about?
this is a lovely example of that flood of confirmative evidence that hit me when I was first began looking into his claims. There's all sorts of things like this on the internet of organizations that sound legitimate, repeating the claim about his IQ. What you have to do is to know that some of these things are founded by him himself. This one is a great example. He cites this. He cites the United States, the United Sigma Intelligence Association, many times in support of his IQ claim. What he doesn't tell us often enough is that he founded that organization. He's using an organization that he founded to support his high IQ claim. There's also been some hanky panky with GIGA, which is known as a high intelligence international organization. And I contacted the founder. It turns out there are two GIGA organizations, as you can see here. There's a .org and a .com. I was in touch with one of them who told me that Mr. Kim had stolen the GIGA name, even used their logo, and won't take it down. And this man, Mr. Paul Kujmans, referred to Mr. Kim as a megalomaniac, pathologically lying imposter. And yeah, so there's bad blood towards Mr. Kim, at least somewhere in the intelligence business, the top intelligence business. But I wanted to point out also, Randall, that this is not the first time Kim's been called an imposter. Fairly recently, there was a German article about him where this Sigma International organization that he founded was using the name of a prominent German scientist named Klaus Meinze, who's a real academic, president of the European Academy of Sciences and Arts, blah, 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 real academic. Mr. Kim was using Professor Meinzer's name as an advisor for his Sigma organization. And when Professor Meinzer learned of this, he had Kim take it down. But here we have another example of this classic narcissist tendency to think that the rules don't apply to you, right? Here we've got Mr. Kim believing himself to be a great genius and just doing things that are very unethical in the way he's presenting himself to the public. And Randall, we've only scratched the surface here. You know, as I say, I've been doing this for 4 days now, and there's a lot there.
It's kind of, I remember in There Will Be Blood, the movie There Will Be Blood, where Daniel Plainview, he's like the great oil man of Texas. He kind of just scratches the surface and oil bubbles up from the underneath the ground in Texas in the early 20th century. It sounds like investigating Kim, you just scratch the surface and all of this information is coming up. This just discredits him. And so those last two, just to underscore those last two pieces. So he's appealing again as an authority to the Sigma group, which he founded. It reminds me, I
Correct.
used to have an endorsement for one of my books on my website where the endorsement said an indispensable resource, Randall's mom. It was meant to be a joke, but I have a feeling that Kim, I mean, this is like what he's doing and he's being serious about it.
Yeah.
And then the Giga Society. So you said there's two of them, and you
Right.
spoke to a representative of one of them who, with that
Right.
very damning quote, said he was using this association without permission. So
Right. Yeah. And I don't want to get involved in the internal warfare. I'm getting the picture that this high intelligence business is kind of like, you know, in Life of Brian, where the Monty Python film, where the People's Liberation Front of Palestine are bitter enemies with the Liberation Front of people of Palestine. You know, they should be on
yeah,
the same size, but they're like at loggerheads. I get the sense that there's a lot of that going on in the high IQ stuff. And I'm not saying that Mr. Kim's not a smart guy. I don't know if he's a smart guy or not. His brief apologetic defense of Christianity felt kind of stupid to me, actually. But maybe he's a brilliant test taker. I don't know. All I know is that it looks really, really deceptive what he's doing to push this highest IQ in the world line. And we'll see where the Christian press and other press takes it. And I think we're going to know a lot more about this guy in the next few months.
I have a feeling he's probably gonna sink back into obscurity pretty soon as people realize that he is in fact a huckster. I mean, again, not only the repeated refrain of, as the world's highest IQ record holder, essentially whatever I say you should accept, seems to be the general ethos of his tweets. But then you look at some of the content of them, and it's just absurd. I mean, he's supposed to an IQ is supposed to measure logical reasoning, and yet he presented a three-step syllogism that was baldly fallacious and invalid
Yeah.
on and talking about how the Bible has two genders, therefore any other gender is a sci-fi concept or he is
Yeah.
something else. It's just very odd. And
Yeah.
nobody who has taken an introductory logic course, let alone is the world's highest IQ, would ever write such a thing. So it's not hard just looking at his own Twitter output to discredit the man.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you did the extra work, Steve. Thank you so much. Any final thoughts as we conclude?
I am hoping that and reminding myself that I had my hopes up when information came out about Ravi Zacharias' bogus credentials, in incontrovertible evidence. I thought that's the end. He's going to reform himself. Nothing happened. It was business as usual with Mr. Zacharias and the whole God business and the Christian press. It took a sex scandal to bring him down. And so it's not beyond my imagination that even though we've proven to a near certainty that the man is highly deceptive, that the Christian world is just getting so much benefit out of the warm fuzzy he's giving their side that they're going to ignore this, and we're going to continue seeing him presented this way. Could be either way.
One footnote as we conclude, you mentioned before to me that you did reach out to Christian Post and one or other organization. So what came of that?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I a few days ago I notified Christian Post, who had published a glowing article about Mr. Kim, and the Catholic News Agency. They both just parroted the standard lines. And so I contacted them and expressed some of my concerns about Mr. Kim. And to their credit, Christian Post withdrew its article. It unpublished its article almost immediately. I mean, within hours. They didn't issue a retraction, which I found disappointing. They didn't comment on why. And my understanding of journalistic ethics is that if you're going to withdraw something, you at least need to give. You got to. You can't unring the bell, but don't just remove the article. Let your readers know why you removed the article. Did you misrepresent something? Anyway, Christian Post just unpublished it, and that's the end of it. The Catholic News Agency published a short paragraph just alerting to people that some of Mr. Kim's claims seem to have are being disputed. So they did do that to their credit.
Okay,
But
maybe
they
a
didn't do any
partial
fact
win.
checking. They
Yeah,
didn't do any
well,
fact checking in the first place, you know.
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, it bears repeating. When Christians profess to be a community that defends truth, and often I've heard in Christian communities, we need to fight for truth against relativism, absolute truth, blah, blah, blah. And then you just repeat these claims with credulity and you mislead potentially millions of people into this fellow's claims. It just discredits the church. And it is so fundamentally incongruous and incompatible with a claim to value truth. So I'm somewhat hardened, but I agree 100% with you that Christian Post, it's not enough to unpublish something. You have to acknowledge that
yeah,
you publish something with error. And I
yeah,
mean, the irony is if you begin to recognize your mistakes and acknowledge them and then reform, that's where you begin to build credibility. And until Christian individuals, apologists, and organizations are willing to
yeah,
do that, they will continue, I think, to lack credibility to a skeptical world. Steve, thank you very
yeah.
much.
Thanks, Randall. I appreciate it.
Oh no, but I didn't want to cut you off. You were just starting something else. So final thoughts.
Oh, I was gonna express my astonishment that it takes an atheist to be exposing this to Christians. Like I said, this is easy, folks. You did not need to do a lot. You don't need to do a lot of gigging to find really bad stuff on Kim Jong Hoon. And why didn't anyone do it? You know, I'm still flabbergasted at that. Yeah.
Yeah, fair point. And look, I mean, atheist, Christian, Hare Krishna, skeptic, Muslim, whatever. if you are seeking truth, we're on the same side, right? On that, I thank you. I appreciate your time, Steve.
Thanks, Randall.